Welcome back to the channel, guys. And with the Unit 2 exam just around the corner, I thought we'd take a look at Section B of the paper. Now, Section B is worth 40 marks in total, and therefore makes up half the paper. And in this section, you're being asked to do two things. Firstly, you have to find 5 mistakes, and these could be linked to spelling, punctuation, or grammar. And secondly, you're being asked to do an extended writing task, and this is worth 35 marks. With the extended writing tasks, you're generally given a choice. The first choice is often linked to creative writing. This could be a descriptive piece or a narrative piece. The second choice is usually an expository piece of writing. This is where you're asked to explain an idea to the reader, or inform them about a topic or describe the topic to them, often including lots of examples. And this usually takes the form of an essay. And that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. In your essay, you will need to give your opinion based on the topic of the question and back it up with reasons and examples. So let's take a look at how we might structure an essay. Most essays contain the following parts: an introduction, ideally 3 main paragraphs, with each paragraph focusing on a different point, a counter-argument where you might consider the opposing view, and a conclusion. So let's take a look at a typical question. A student said, "Cancel culture is unfair because people are judged too quickly online and are often not given a chance to learn from their mistakes. Write an essay in which you give your views on this statement." And I often find that students don't know where to start with this type of question. But the best place to start is with the statement itself, because within that statement, the examiners are really giving you the topics to discuss within your essay. So let's take a look. And when you break down the statement, you can see that we could break it down into 3 different parts. The first being that cancel culture is unfair. The second is that people are judged too quickly. And the third is that people are not given a chance to learn from their mistakes. And these 3 points would make up the main arguments within our essay. Now that we have our 3 main points, we need to flesh these out within a plan. One interesting thing to note is the examiner's comments on student planning, or lack of planning. In general, those who had planned their answers were more successful in their writing compared to those who hadn't. So it's a good idea to spend about 5 to 10 minutes planning your ideas. And one of the easiest ways to plan is by asking yourself questions like how and why. So let's take the statement from earlier that cancel culture is unfair. If we ask ourselves, why is cancel culture unfair? We might come up with the idea that it's because people react instantly online. Another reason why cancel culture might be unfair is because people don't know the whole story and judge things at face value. If we ask ourselves, well, how is cancel culture unfair? We might come up with the idea that it's because rumors are spread easily. And so hopefully you can see, just by asking these small, simple questions, that it helps to generate ideas that you can use within your paragraphs. Once you've finished your planning, you'll want to think about your introduction. And in the introduction, you really want to include 3 main things. The first thing is, what is the big issue? What is the overall topic or problem that your essay is about? Secondly, what specific part or angle or aspect of the topic will you be discussing? And thirdly, what is your main opinion or argument that you're going to prove in the essay? So let's take a look at an example introduction. In this introduction, we can see it includes the 3 main things that we just discussed: the context of the essay, its focus, and a personal viewpoint. So let's have a read. Cancel culture has become a major issue in today's online world, where people can face public criticism within minutes of making a mistake. A key problem is how quickly people are judged online and how rarely they are given the chance to learn or improve. I personally believe this makes cancel culture unfair, as it punishes people instantly instead of allowing them the opportunity to grow from their actions. At the end of the video, have a go at writing your own introduction by looking at past essay questions from the Unit 2 papers. Next, we want to look at how to construct each of our paragraphs. And the easiest way to do that is to follow the PEEE method. Point, evidence, explain, and evaluate. The point is the main idea of our paragraph. The evidence is the proof that supports our main point. Here you want to use lots of examples to show your ideas. Just a word of caution here. In the past, the examiners have said that students have a tendency to copy too much information from the extracts in Section A. Of course, it's okay to borrow ideas as inspiration, but what you shouldn't do is copy out large chunks of quotations. In the Explain section of your paragraph, this is where you want to consider why the topic matters. And finally, in the Evaluate section, you want to consider the impact, the consequence, or the importance of the topic on wider society. So let's have a look at an example paragraph. Firstly, cancel culture is unfair, as it often punishes people without looking at the full situation or understanding what's really happened. People react instantly. They don't stop to think. They don't wait for the facts. For example, studies show that over 70% of social media users share posts without checking the source, meaning false or incomplete information spreads rapidly. This creates an environment where people are cancelled based on short clips, screenshots, or rumours that may not show the whole story. A tiny moment becomes a massive problem. One mistake becomes someone's whole identity. This quick judgment turns social media into a place of instant outrage rather than fairness. It becomes reaction first, truth later. After all, how can anyone defend themselves when the world has already decided that they are guilty? When writing your opening point, make sure that you have a clear and specific topic sentence rather than a vague one. Take a look at these two examples. In the first example, it doesn't really tell the reader what the point actually is. Whereas in the second example, it makes a clear point and tells the reader exactly what the paragraph will argue. Within your paragraph, you also want to show examples of signposting, and these come in different forms. At the beginning of your paragraphs, you might want to use sequencing words such as firstly, secondly, thirdly, and finally. When adding information, you might consider using furthermore, additionally, or moreover. In the explain or evaluate section of your paragraph, you might consider using phrases such as a result, consequently, and therefore, and these ones are used to show cause and effect. Another way to help improve the flow of your essay is by linking paragraphs. And this can be quite easily achieved by making reference to the point from the previous paragraph at the beginning of your next paragraph. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. You may have noticed that within the paragraph some persuasive techniques have been used to help emphasize the point being made, and this also helps to make your argument more convincing. However, using too many persuasive techniques can become ineffective, as the writing then feels forced and perhaps less believable. So, striking a balance between the two is important. Another thing the examiners look for in your writing is the use of sentence variety. You want to show the examiners that you know how to use short and simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences. By varying your sentences, it shows you have control over your writing, and it makes your writing more interesting in general. You can see in the example paragraph that a mixture of all three have been used. Remember that simple sentences help to create impact. Compound sentences help to link two ideas together. And complex sentences add detail and explanation to your writing. One thing the examiners noted was that students were using too much comma splicing. Now, comma splicing is when you connect two full sentences with a comma in the middle. Instead, try using a connective such as and, but, or so. Or try replacing the comma with a semicolon. And the third option is to split the two sentences into two short sentences using a full stop. And finally, let's take a look at how to write a conclusion. Much like the introduction, a conclusion should have three parts. The first thing you want to do is to summarize the key ideas. Here you want to highlight the most important points that you made earlier in your essay. Secondly, you want to restate the main argument. Briefly remind the reader of your overall viewpoint, without repeating it word for word. And lastly, you want to end the essay with a strong closing sentence that leaves the reader thinking. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. Before you head off, I'm leaving you with a quick checklist based on the mark scheme for this question. Have a look through it and jot down anything you want to remember for your exam. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more revision tips.